So good to see you.
I think that you are
Thank you.
taped down for the most
You
part.
did a fantastic job. I'm much better. Yeah, I usually use something like that.
Yeah. So,
And it was in my bag when I left the office.
listen, I have like a tub of this stuff. I cannot. Yeah, I'm not finding it. So,
Yeah.
are you good?
Yeah, if I get on Facebook to share the link, it would be.
Well, good evening, everybody. If you don't mind, we'll get started. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. And your eardrums as well. Turn it off. Sure. This is good. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Devon Means. I have the privilege of serving as superintendent of our county school district. It's my understanding, I don't know what's been done in the past, but what I wanted to do with this fiscal year budget and its development was to have at least one session prior to us rolling out the budget to the Board of Education. I wanted to have a session with the community just to share with you what's been happening as the budget's been developed, and to share with you some of our ideas as we move forward in the development of this fiscal year budget. There's inherent challenges with any school district budget. I want to share with you some of those inherent challenges for us, but ultimately want to get some feedback from you as we move forward. So if you have questions, I will answer any of those questions here this evening, but there's also an email address that you can send the email to. It's fiscal20@clark.k12.ga.us. So if you have a question that you are not able or willing to share in this forum, please feel free to send the question to this email. Again, it's fiscal20@clark.k12.ga.us. So I want to start with our vision, mission, and theory of action. We completed a strategic plan last year, and that strategic plan drives all of our work. I also want to share, before I dive into a lot of these slides, that with any budget, there will always be more desires for what you want to get out of the budget than what you can actually spend on. There's always budget challenges. It ultimately comes down to your values. And what do you value as a school system? And ultimately, it comes down to your vision as well. So I want to talk a little bit about my personal vision for leading the school district, but ultimately it starts with our vision statement as a strategic plan, which is to build a culture of high expectations and equity. I've had an opportunity to talk to a lot of individuals today in our community, staff members, community members. As we continue to do our work, I say this humbly, but as an organization, we need to continue to raise the expectations for children. And when we are satisfied with some of the results that we have received as a school system, it should be something that startles us, causes us to pause, and to say we should have higher expectations. as I've talked to community members and staff members, I believe that there's at least alignment with that expectation, that we should raise what we expect from our kids. We should raise those expectations from a result standpoint. I haven't had a chance to share this, but let me just try this with you right now. For any individual who says that test scores are just test scores and they don't mean anything, help me understand Operation Varsity Blues. That's the recent FBI scandal where people paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to get their children into certain schools. So when individuals make the statement that test scores don't mean anything, it meant something to somebody where they paid thousands of dollars for it. I would go on to say that when you consider the data points that our kids are unfortunately receiving, every data point shuts a door to opportunity for kids. When they're not reading on grade level, when they're not proficient, we're shutting opportunities down for children. We have to work collectively as a school system to make sure that children do have those opportunities. Our mission statement is also very clear. And our mission statement is that we're an ambitious community of learners. And that ambition means that we want to make sure that every child on every campus, in every classroom, is achieving their very best. I typically stay away from the concept or the word potential, because sometimes people use the word potential to lessen and to say that kids can't do certain things because their potential was stunted because of their poverty or the trauma that they lived through. I believe that children who are in poverty, who are suffering from trauma, can learn and read on grade level and even beyond. And so as a school system, we have to, as a community, we have to start pivoting away from the concept of these children are poor and these children are living in poverty, and so they may not be able to do certain things. That's part of the narrative that we have to collectively break away from. And then finally, we have a theory of action within our strategic plan, and that theory of action is very clear. A theory of action is an if-then statement. And the if statement is, if we teach through standards-based, rigorous standards-based instruction, constant progress on our school growth plans, that we have constant focus on the social emotional development of our students and constant attention towards equity practices, then we can accomplish our strategic plan, but more importantly, we can have achievement at the level that we're all satisfied with as an organization for children. So a couple of things with our budget. We are focusing on creating a balanced budget. Again, last year was the first year in, according to our CFO, in almost 7 years where we had a balanced budget, where we didn't go into a deficit and had deficit spending. I don't believe in deficit spending. I don't think that's wise. Ultimately, we're going to have to make some tough decisions. And so it's our goal to have a balanced budget. We want to maintain low class sizes. I want to share with you where we are with our class sizes in a few minutes with the slideshow. We want to create greater support at the school level for instructional delivery. Again, I'll talk a little bit more about what that means. And then at the state level, Governor Kemp has put aside $30,000 for each school to invest in security upgrades. And so we're really pleased with that investment at the state level of ensuring that there are funds available for security upgrades. The way that we build our budget is through a zero-based budgeting process. Every line item must be justified. Our chief financial officer, Larry Hamill, does that. He meets with every department. He forces our teams to justify why we have a line item. And then ultimately, there is a detailed review by our administrative team that includes our principals, department leads, and schools. Our budgets must align to our strategic plan and reflect the investment that we want to put in students. So when we look at our tentative fiscal 2020 budget, there's a couple of things that stick out. The first is that we are projecting a local tax digest of anywhere between 4.5% to 0%. That we are pleased once again that Governor Kemp has increased compensation for teachers and other instructional staff by $3,000. That money is reflected in QBE, and so that increase will happen. If you remember, there was a promise by Governor Kemp of $5,000, I believe, to teachers. This is the first start of fulfilling that promise. We are projecting to have QBE funds of somewhere between $74.15 million. A couple other components. Our total step salary increase will be at $1.4 million. Our teacher retirement system increase is unknown as of March 22nd. We're continuing to watch that development. And we are projecting a total fiscal budget of $161 million. That's an increase of $10 million over last year, mainly from the increase of pay for teachers. We are one of the few school systems in Georgia out of 180 school systems. There are about 17 to 20 school systems who have a millage rate of 20 mils, which is very unique. In other words, we have a community that greatly supports our public schools. And so we're really pleased about that continued support. I will show you in a few slides from now where even with that support, we're struggling from a financial standpoint. This millage rate will generate $77.3 million. Again, this presentation will be made available online tomorrow by Mary Woodwire. Is Mary in the room anymore? Maybe not. She'll make sure that it's uploaded. But you'll see our property tax continues to go up. Fiscal year 18, it was $72 million. Last year it was at $77 million. We're projecting $78.4 million. The overall budget continues to go up. Fiscal year 18, it was at $142 million. We're projecting somewhere between $160 million. I think this is really important to point out because ultimately the issue of money is one element of our challenge. Really, it comes down to how do we believe it is best for us to educate children. Because there continues to be an investment in funds put into our school system. It's a matter of truly measuring and seeing if those investments are yielding the results that we want for children. So again, you'll see that this purple slice is the state's contribution to our budget. This blue portion, and the purple slice represents 46.2%. The blue slice represents 49.2%. And you'll see that the federal dollars, mainly through our title funds, represents a small portion of our contribution in our overall budget. You will see here again, this is the breakdown of that pie chart. So the vast majority of our funds are coming from local property taxes, with the state contributing through the QBE, another sizable portion. That didn't convert well. But how many of you heard of the concept of austerity and that there were austerity cuts implemented to the state budget and funding for public education? How many of you heard of that concept? Last year was the first year where austerity cuts were not present in the budget. We believe that through discussions at the state level, and the budget isn't final, but it's our understanding that those austerity cuts will again not be embedded in this year's budget. With this slide, if converted, and we'll make sure that it converts well on the website. But what this slide shows is that for many years, from fiscal year 14 through 19, there were austerity cuts put into place. And while we're very pleased and humbled that there aren't austerity cuts in this fiscal year 20 or fiscal year 19, we're still dealing with years of not fully funding public education. And by not having those cuts in place for 2 years doesn't offset the many years that there were austerity cuts in our budget. I think, yes. Oh, I heard someone say that. Sorry. This slide is probably the most telling slide of all. You'll see here that this is our QBE revenue that we receive from the state of Georgia. The red line is our actual budget. The contribution from the state is our actual budget. And so you'll see there's a significant gap in between what we're actually budgeting and what we're spending and what our QBE revenue actually shows. So another very telling sign. The blue bars represent the QBE funds. The orange bars represent the budgeted salaries and benefits for transportation of our students. So this is what it actually costs our school system to transport children day in and day out in the Clark County School District. And the blue bars represent the contribution from the state of Georgia. Again, showing some gaps in the funding. To kind of round this all out, this is also telling. When you look at our nursing, we've made a commitment to school nurses in our school system. The state, through the QBE, provides $267,000 towards nursing. We've budgeted $1.23 million in nursing. Our transportation, again, I just showed you that slide. This is the slide right here. We earned a little over $1 million for transportation through state funding. It cost us nearly $9 million to operate our transportation program. We've earned a total of 938.76 teaching positions, but we budgeted over 1,000. Exactly, it's 1,008 teaching positions. We budgeted 117 special teachers. That's art, music, physical education, other electives. These are teachers who are not earned within the QBE formula. And I won't read the rest of the slide to you, but I think it's telling that when you look at the values that we've put in place in regards to our budget, we've budgeted a number of different positions that do not equal what we receive from the state of Georgia to make sure that those positions are paid for. There's been a lot of talk about class size. So I'm working with our human resources department. We've made a projection on how many students we're going to have for fiscal year 20. When you take that compared to the number of staff we have put into the budget for fiscal year 20, here are the projected student-teacher ratio from grades kindergarten to 8th grade. There is somewhat of a bump in 7th grade, but generally speaking, you won't find a class size on the average across our district that's over 25 to 1 teacher. We can spend more time talking about this if we want, but when you look at balancing a budget, there's really 2 ways you can balance a budget. The first is revenue generation, and that revenue generation can be through a lot of different means. We have limited opportunities here in Georgia, but you can increase enrollment, and then that's when you get more funds through QBE. You can look at non-tax revenue options of increasing student fees, you can sell property, you can rent income. That's one side of revenue generation. The other side is expenditure reduction, where you have to reduce program services, employee compensation, or reduce staffing through increasing class sizes, which ultimately gets down to wages and benefits. I want to talk about this slide just for a second, because there's been a lot of talk in our community about poverty, the impact of poverty and trauma to the education of children. And I agree. I think in our community, this is a tough issue that we need to collectively try to find ways to combat it and address it. But it's important to keep in mind that when you talk about the out-of-school factors, this is someone holding a resume because they're out of work. This is someone who has bills of $800 but they have a paycheck of $500. Or this is someone who doesn't have a computer at home and limited books. Those out-of-school factors don't impact the in-school factors of what does teaching and learning look like. It does impact the effect, the out-of-school effect of poverty does impact how behaviors manifest themselves in the classroom. And it's our job to address those issues. But for us to simply say, in a very broad brush, they're poor and they're dealing with poverty, and therefore it will be more challenging to teach them, isn't fair to those children who are in those situations. Because despite being poor and despite being in poverty, in trauma, they can still learn. They can still learn at high levels. It's our job to try to combat against the pressure of poverty and how it manifests itself in the classroom. There's some classrooms, and there's some students who are living in poverty, who are dealing with trauma, and you wouldn't know. They're persevering. And so for us to use a broad brush and to make those types of statements isn't fair to those children. It places them in a situation. Dr. Milner, who we've been working with as a school district, has said, I think says it well, poverty it should not define a person or a group of people. It's an issue that we have to address, but it doesn't mean that you define someone by their poverty. The intersection of home and school will always be teaching. That intersection of how do we combat the poverty and trauma that kids are dealing with, ultimately, always, the intersection is good, high-quality instruction. And if we have strong, high-quality instruction, that will always, in my opinion, address the needs of children from an academic and also social-emotional standpoint. So we've talked about the revenue table and how revenue has continued to go up in the school system. The budget continues to grow. We continue to also grow our fund balance. Our fund balance is a healthy fund balance, and that's due to us being fiscally prudent over the years, and we're projecting to have a strong fund balance in this fiscal year of 2019. That's the conclusion of my presentation, but I want to now open the floor to see if there are any questions or thoughts that people would like to share, and candidly to provide feedback in terms of what do we need to think about as we continue to put together the budget for fiscal year 20.
Dr. Means, when you took over as superintendent, you had an audit completed and found that the school system did absolutely nothing to protect sexual assault. Dr. Means, when you took over as superintendent, you did an audit, you had an independent audit come in and found that the school system did absolutely nothing to protect children from being sexually assaulted by teachers. Well, during this time, during 2015 through 2016, there was a 14-year-old young lady. She was a straight-A student, college-bound, good citizen, just beautiful, beautiful young lady. And you had a teacher at Clark Central School. Well, this teacher stalked this beautiful young lady until she tried to starve herself to death. And then one day he told her, when he got her vulnerable from stalking her, he told her that she had to stay after school for tutoring. And he kidnapped her, took her to the edge of the school parking lot, and violently raped her. Well, this child suffered, you talk about trauma, this child suffered so much trauma that she started vomiting all her food until she vomited a hole in her esophagus, and she suffered lifelong damage from this esophageal tear. Her family suffered $250,000 of medical expenses. Her mother had to quit her job to nurse this child day and night. And my question is, how do you justify taking a paycheck when this beautiful young lady has not received a penny from the school system, despite waiting 3 years, has not received a penny from the school system for the blood that she shed from her esophagus, from being raped, and from the multiple times that the school system permitted her to be blamed for her own victimization. So how do you justify taking a paycheck when this is the case? And if there's no way to justify that, do you plan to include money in the budget this year to pay for the compensation for sexual assault victims and the lives that were ruined because of this?
That's a very complex statement / question that respectfully, I don't believe should be addressed in public. If you would like to have a private conversation about the situation that you're referencing, please see me or you can see Dr. Dawn Myers and we'll be happy to speak with you. Thank you. Any questions? Any other questions? Yes, ma'am, thank you.
So I know you said that you're still developing the budget, but what are some of the projected changes or, focus or emphasis that you're looking at for this next budget year?
Thank you. There were 3 major areas that we looked at. And when I say we, it was with our building principals and our district administrative team. The first area was to look at our elementary school schedule. It's my opinion that our elementary school schedule does not permit enough time for classroom teachers to collaborate with one another, nor do we provide enough time for children to explore their gifts in art, music, and physical education. And so I think we need to redo our schedule. But when we started examining our elementary school schedule, that would require us to hire a significant number of art, music, and physical education teachers. And I think it would take more planning, candidly, for us to implement this type of schedule well. And so the feedback I've received from our building principals was, can we take time to do this well, talk with our school communities, and get ready for fiscal year 21, which is right around the corner now. The second concept was to look at our lowest paid employees in the organization. And that's our classified staff. And so that's custodians, our transportation team, paraprofessionals, and Lynn Duke, who's our chief of human resources, did an analysis. She also used a comp study that was completed about 1.5 years ago, and identified which of our classified staff is the lowest paid when you do a regional analysis. And when you do that analysis, our lowest paid employees based on that comp study are the custodians and head custodians. And that makes it even more competitive for us because they being individuals who want to go into that industry of custodial work, they can make a very healthy salary at the University of Georgia. They're also able to join the TRS, the Teacher Retirement System, as custodial workers at the University of Georgia, where we don't have that ability as a K-12 system. So we're really at a disadvantage. When Lynn looked at that work, it would cost us somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.3 million to bring all of our classified employees up to where we needed to go. And then the final area, I asked Dr. Myers and her team in school supports to look at all the different areas. So counselors, social workers, school psychologists, behavioral support individuals, nursing. I asked her, so talk to your teams and tell me how much more staff do you need to meet the needs of the SEL wraparound services that I believe and the community believes we need to provide. And that initial cost to bring up our staffing to the level that team, that SEL team would like us to be at was $1.5 million. So the first issue was around a new elementary schedule. That would be, our estimate right now would be somewhere between $2.5 and $2.8 million. To bring our classified employees up to a standard of living that would be commensurate with the area comp study, that was 1.3 million, and to bring our SEL staffing up, that was 1.5 million. We examined our budget and realized, again, that it goes back to that slide that I showed earlier of if you're going to have the concept of a balanced budget, that means you have to give up something to pay for that type of increase. And our team decided that that would be too disruptive to make a cut of that level of significance, of anywhere between 1.3 million on up. That was just too much. So we believe that we can find up to $500,000 in reductions in other places in the budget to do the work that we want to do. And asking our team, they said, well, if you have $500,000, the best place to invest those funds would be in SEL. So Dr. Myers and her team won't be able to implement the entire plan that they had in place. They'll be able to implement a third of their plan. But that's where we're leaning right now in terms of investing and doing something new. And I think that's why what I shared earlier in terms of when you look at, when you look at this slide and see what the state budget provides versus what we actually are able to, what we actually budget, we're already making an investment. And so I hope that the community recognizes that we're making an investment that goes beyond what the state provides us in funding. But we have made a commitment to even funding this more by another $500,000. Yes, ma'am. We're not quite sure yet. I mean, that's Larry Hamill and I need to continue to look at where we could possibly find the savings without disrupting our instructional delivery. Because the feedback we received from principals was, we don't want to lose people. We don't want to cut or lose some of the staff members that we already have in place. And so our principal team has made it a little difficult for us to find $500,000. The charge has been funded. And so Larry and I are sharpening our pencils and trying to find it right now. Yes, ma'am. The question was, are there any grant opportunities out there? Dr. Myers and Tessa Barbazon just submitted a grant around the concept of having more counselors in our schools just last week. And so, yes, we're pursuing as many grants as possible that fits within the SEL realm. We'll take care of it. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
We talked about hiring more teachers. How many of those teachers will be special ed teachers?
So we constantly have needs for special education teachers, and Lynn Duke and our human resources team, they've been on the recruiting trail all spring. I don't have the number of how many are special ed teachers, but I can tell you that we've been aggressive in trying to identify special ed teachers right away and hiring them immediately. The Board of Education was very generous in giving Lynn and Human Resources the go-ahead of going out and hiring teachers as early as January of this calendar year. So ultimately, the hiring process rests with building principals. It's a local decision. And so once those vacancies are identified, there are allotment meetings then principals have the ability to start the interviewing process. So if you are an active member of a school community, it's really incumbent on your leadership at the school level to post, to screen, interview, and eventually recommend candidates. Yes, ma'am.
I'm curious, as a lot of, this is a main time for teachers, and as a special educator here, we talk about collaborative planning a lot, and I'm in a situation where I teach two different grade levels, and I have zero. So I have zero planning, not just one grade level, but both. Are there any plans to, I know I'm not the only one, are there any plans to alleviate that? Especially, I'm new to one of the grade levels, so it's been.
I thank you for the question. Look, for the viewing public, let me try to summarize your statement and question. The question is the opportunity to collaborate with colleagues just isn't within a regular education team, but it's also those other special teachers, either EIP teachers, parapros. I don't want to dismiss our parapros and their role in education, or special education teachers. I think our principals and I recognize that the community conversation right now around our elementary school schedule is much deeper than what we kind of introduced, how we were introduced to the conversation, which was people, and I'm concerned, and others are concerned about the minutes available for recess and allowing kids to have playtime. We don't have a lot of playtime built into our elementary school schedules, but I think another condition is that we don't have a lot of collaboration time. And so when you hear teachers say that they feel like they're on a treadmill, they're constantly moving, and there's no time to rest, part of that is the way that we've constructed our elementary school schedule where they just don't have time to collaborate. And so if you, for example, if you're an EIP teacher working with struggling students, there should be time for you. It shouldn't be 20 minutes. It should be a large, substantial amount of time. You can sit down with your colleagues and say, so how are these students performing? What do we need to do differently to serve them? We haven't created the conditions to do the work that you have described. I believe that our elementary school principals have given me, they've given me counsel to say, we want to construct a different schedule. This just isn't the year to do it. We need time to continue to work with our faculties. We need time to really be thoughtful about if we are going to go out to the market and construct a schedule that's going to have more art, music, and physical education, then we want to get to the marketplace and the workforce place early. We don't want to, we could have constructed that schedule and then you're looking for those types of teachers in April, and you're not going to get good teachers. We believe we can do that, we can go through this process and get to the market in January of 2020, that puts us in a better position. I am a strong advocate for us changing our elementary school schedule. I think teacher stress will go down significantly, but more importantly, I think kids will have a different educational experience. Typically in urban school districts, I like to use the word, we drill kids academically. We put them in a lot of time. We put them in front of teachers for instruction, and we just assume that's going to help them learn. And I don't subscribe to that theory. I believe that if kids have an opportunity to explore and grow and have a chance to go to art and express themselves in art or in music or in physical education as young people, that may open up doors from an instructional standpoint that we don't even know yet. And yes, I believe in recess too. And we need to do all of those different things, but that's going to, it's going to take a significant change. Our principals in essence have said, we know that this is work that we need to do. And so please give us time to work with our teams at the school level, so then when we make this big change, people know what what's happening and why we're doing it. Good question. Yes, ma'am.
I kind of have a follow-up to that. Our schools are the first students, if we do add more special teachers, which would be wonderful. Our school's kind of bursting at the seams already. Where would we put the extra staff and special? I mean, we have wonderful facilities for our kids, but I don't know where we would put like a second gym or a second art room to make sure we have room for the kids to go where they need to go. So that's my question. How would we find money for teachers and building space?
What school are you at?
Chase Street.
Yes. So that's, yes,
We don't have.
yes, you have issues for sure. So there are 5 schools that our SPLOST department, our construction department has said, we need additions at certain schools. Chase is one, J.J. Harris is a second, Timothy is a third, Wick Davis is a fourth, and then the final one is Hemmings. Those are 5 schools that we know we need to place additions onto those schools. The concept of a second gymnasium or other areas for art or music, that would be difficult. But we know that those are 5 schools that we need to put additions on. I think the other concept that we really need to start wrestling with my team and I is are we really committed to building a 15th elementary school, or are we better off putting additions on the schools that we currently have? And what's less disruptive to the community? And so, yes, that's one of the 5. But I think there are other schools as well. I think other schools would say this would be tight. Everyone doesn't have a Whitehead facility. And candidly, I think Dr. McDaniel will tell you, even here, it would be a challenge if we went to that new schedule. In fact, I asked Dr. McDaniel to be one of the co-leaders of this work to say, so what would it look like? Because he has such a large elementary school, and it would be difficult, even at a building this size. So, unfortunately, I think if we did expand art, music, at least art and music, there would be some teachers on a cart to make that happen. But the vision for this schedule would be at least 4 days a week, teachers would have a 90-minute collaboration time. Now, that's beneficial to teachers. I look at it as a dual benefit because that means kids are getting art, music, or something that is, I believe, touching the other spheres of their brain. And I'm a firm believer of if that's happening, we don't know what we can open up for kids if we're allowing them to be better artists and musicians and athletes. So that's the vision, that's our goal. But it's going to take some time for us to put it together. Yes, ma'am.
What would be happening, or what are we getting for the additional special teachers?
We don't know yet. And again, when you're talking, so the question was, what would we have to give up? I think that's going to be the big question. But you need to know that our building principals believe that the trade-off of giving something up in the name of that type of schedule is worth pursuing. So there are a lot of different areas. There are staffing. It's going to have to come out of personnel ultimately. When you're talking about reducing a budget by $2+ million, that means you're going to have less of certain type of staff to have art, music, and physical education teachers. So we're not firm yet on what it could be. There have been some deliberations and conversations about what it would be. It would be irresponsible for me to kind of throw out those ideas right now. But as principals and I continue to talk, I guess what I do want to express is that we've had the conversation of what's best for our teaching staff in terms of the stress that they have on them and what's best for kids. And that's why I shared those slides of our vision, mission, and theory of action, because that should drive our work. Yes, ma'am.
I have two comments. One, just about trauma and your comments about good teaching. I think the teaching area. But what we have learned a lot from our work with trauma, to become more trauma informed, is that trauma affects all kinds of people, not just people in poverty, and that there is a change in the brain. And so people who are in a serious trauma situation or suffering from that really aren't using that prefrontal cortex to learn. So I support that more social emotional support in schools to kind of help so the teachers are able to do their teaching. Also, in the slide about outside factors in the living wage and poverty issues, which is certainly a cause of trauma for lots of people. I just would have to speak in support of our certified staff and paraprofessionals who really aren't making enough money to support their families in the way that they would like. And so as hard as the choices are, and I hear what you're saying, you can't do everything, but just have to speak up for our hardworking certified staff and support of the increase.
I appreciate the statement. As we continue to look at all these different options, I've shared with our administrative team, I'm the son of a head custodian. So my dad retired from the public school system in Wisconsin as a head custodian, so it is real for me. It's very personal for me. And so yes, we want to do it all. That's unfortunately not the reality of our budgets. And that's why I wanted to share with you earlier, when you look at our budget slides, we're continuing to have more revenue. I shared with our administrative team the concept of academic, what are we getting for the return on investment that we're putting into certain positions is something we have to look at. In other words, if we have had the same staffing level of certain positions for years, what have we gained academically as a result of it? And are we able to do things differently? And sometimes you can't be afraid to do things differently. Because if we do things differently, then maybe that amazing schedule that I just described to you could happen for kids and staff, but it may mean we're going to have to deliver instruction in a different way. We can't be afraid to have those discussions. Yes, ma'am.
Given all these things that really are urgent priorities of certified staff and field services. So you've identified some really important priorities, the SEL services, the custodial and other certified staff. And you've also shown that the budget has gone up every year. Could you tell a little bit about where that additional revenue is getting allocated and has been?
Well, in the last couple of years, it's been through the austerity cuts not being embedded in the QBE funds. We are continuing to have an increase in our title dollars. So that's been helpful as well. But it's mainly through the QBE formula continuing to have zero austerity cuts. And then this jump, the jump this year also is connected to our local tax revenue continuing to go up. It's a healthy local economy here. And so we're projecting anywhere between 4.5 to 5% growth in local taxes. And the fact that we tax at a mill of 20 mills, again, out of 180 school systems, there are about 20 that are actually taxing at the max here at the 20 mills. So there's some conditions that we have here in Clark County that most other school districts don't have, between austerity cuts going away, with Governor Kemp saying that he wants to invest more in teacher salaries, and with our local economy being healthier, and our Title I dollars continuing to be strong, and thankfully the federal government, regardless of their issues happening at the federal level, they haven't touched title dollars. I have been most concerned about that as an issue of maybe the Department of Education looking toward title dollars and reducing those funds. Thankfully, we haven't had to advocate at at the federal level. So those are the reasons why our budget continues to grow.
Right, so I guess maybe my question wasn't clear, it was more the budget is continuing to grow, and we have all these wonderful priorities, but what's eating it up so much?
These things.
But the, we have that same sort of issue throughout that curve, right?
But it continues to, so this number continues to grow over the years. And so our QBE, so for example, next fiscal year, 2017, we're continuing, you can't have class sizes of this level and have only earned 938 teachers. So there's pressure that we're placing on the budget of, we want low class sizes, which I believe in, then you have to pay for it somehow, some way. If you want to have school social workers and psychologists and counselors, which we all believe in, then that, and these people continue to get steps as they stay in the organization, so the cost continues to grow. The cost of, they don't go down, they continue to go up.
Because maybe I created more detail than we can get into right now, but I guess my understanding was also that there have been not as many increases in pay as one might have hoped, et cetera, but maybe there's something.
But we're continuing to reduce class size. So when I arrived 2 years ago and I saw the class sizes, I thought to myself, these are large. These are large class sizes for kids who we claim need more attention. And so in the past the two budgets that I've been able to touch, we have had a focus on keeping class sizes low. Candidly, and I'm a former middle school and high school principal, to have class sizes, and when you have sixth graders, you should have low class sizes of 19 or 20 at the sixth grade level, or even at the eighth grade level. What's happening is that we're continuing to invest in places like low class sizes and some of the SEL areas. Again, I think that the richness of this community has been, we do invest in the specials. We don't earn any dollars for those teachers within the QBE. So I think there are a lot of things that we're investing in that we just don't get funds for, but thankfully, at least for the last 2 years with the austerity cuts going away, there has been a decrease in the budget. Yes, ma'am.
I was just wondering with the implementation of the co-teaching co-serve model, how you anticipate that affecting the staffing and the budget? Would you expect the need to hire more teachers or do the same or less teachers?
So the concept, let's back up a little bit so everyone knows what we're talking about. So the concept of co-planning and co-serve is very different than co-teaching. So when you co-teach, if I'm a regular education teacher, and Dr. McDaniel is, I'm regular ed, you're special ed, we're co-teaching together. To co-plan and co-serve was very different. The co-plan and co-serve means maybe I'm the spectrum teacher, but I have time to sit down with the regular education teachers to talk about, so how are my spectrum students being served? How are my special education students being served? I don't necessarily have to push into every classroom, but I'm part of the team, and I'm ensuring that the voice of those children are being met through the planning process. Does it necessarily mean that you're gonna hire more people? Not necessarily. Doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna have to hire more people. It's really about doing your work differently. That co-planning and co-serve also means that you're allowing counselors to sit in on those meetings to say, so how are we treating Charmaine this week? She threw a chair in class last week. What are we gonna do about it? What do we know to be the triggers? Those are the co-planning and co-serve models. And so no, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna hire more staff. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Dr. Meek, I think we have some of the best principals and teachers in the state. I thank God for all of you. I was able to observe a situation earlier today. Sitting here listening about traumatized students. Is there money in the budget set aside to help teachers to cope, to handle the situation with the students that have gone through these things? We have some wonderful teachers that say we can teach, but many of these teachers have never seen these situations before. To today I watched, Ms. Tarver, officer, keep calling officer, favorite, assistant principal, favorite, couple of their staff, and the SRO, handling a young man, and violently, vanity. But no matter which direction he wanted to go, they was able to de-escalate. And within about a period of 10, 15 minutes, it was gone. Do we have finances to help teachers to cope with these situations?
We understand that through our induction program that we need to do a better job. So when we hire teachers, I don't think we're doing a good enough job in sharing with them, you're going to be teaching in some difficult situations. And so part of our work moving into next school year is to have a stronger induction program. What I mean by that is when we hire teachers right now, we have a new teacher orientation, and it's in July. They're excited to get into their classrooms, and then we never touch base with them again from a district perspective. Next year, we're going to do a better job of having continuous touch points with those individuals to say, so how do you handle teacher-parent conferences? How do you handle discipline issues? How do you handle students who may be dealing with poverty and trauma? How do you handle it as a person educating those kids? Because I think sometimes in this conversation we've ignored the impact on the educator. So there's a trickle down in terms of that trauma is transferred on to educators. So I realize we need to do a better job in this space. And so we will start next year and investing more in supporting teachers from that perspective. Candidly, that's something that emerged from our parent advisory board conversation that I had back in either January or February, where in a very productive, collaborative environment, that stakeholder group said, so here's what we're hearing from people, what do you think? And they really stretched me to think. And so we're working with the University of Georgia in their College of Education to come up with a much better induction program that is not just a one-stop shop, but it's truly something that's ongoing. We're also beefing up our mentoring program to make sure that if you are confronted with those types of situations as a new person in Clark County, you have someone to talk to. You have a thought partner, and that you don't have to try to search for someone. Again, I want to take time to give some praise to a stakeholder group that I meet with on a monthly basis that said, so here's a challenge, you need to think outside the box to meet these needs. Yes, ma'am.
Does the new budget does it have space for the school governance teams and their innovation grants and capacity that it has so far the last 2 years?
It will have innovation grant dollars in the budget. We receive about $1 million as a result of being a charter system. A lot of that money goes towards paying for salaries. One of the ideas that we have for next school year is to take some of those funds and to, for lack of a better term right now, but I like the term, we want to hire a community activist that would be part of that charter system movement. When I read when I continue to read the initial document that went to the Department of Education requesting the charter from Clark County, there was a lot of conversation around community schools and reaching into the community. Well, I think Claire Suggs, who's here this evening, who's our Chief of Community Engagement and Strategic Partnerships, she does a wonderful job in that work. But when you are coordinating the work of 21 LSGTs, there's a lot of structure that you have to put in place, and that limits her ability to get out into the community and just touch base with people. Just to go to a worship service in the name of, I'm here as a representative from Clark County, to go and walk the neighborhoods with Sister Margarita around the J.J. Harris community. Those are as I've listened to the community, those are things that people want to see from Clark County as well. And so we want to carve out some funds out of that $1 million. There's a lot of funds there. We want to carve out some opportunity where we're reaching out to the community in a more deliberate way in the future. But there will be innovation grant funds in the budget future. Yes, sir.
I'd like to amplify what the gentleman sort of said about teachers and other educators, including yourself, who have really hard jobs and do a lot of work day to day, helping kids change the trajectory of their lives, help them along the way. But my question, I've heard the word principles about 30 times today. And I think one thing you and I agree on is the importance of principles. And I'd like to know, I know there's been a lot of principal turnover the last couple of years. That happens. Some years have spikes, some have troughs. But I'm wondering, with all the principal turnover last year and the year before, this is the first couple questions and observations. What do you expect to be going forward? How many principals that are in schools this year are going to still be there next year? That's one question. Does anybody really say poor kids can't learn and test scores don't matter at all, don't mean anything? I don't know anybody who said that, I certainly don't. But I really wonder, you always set that up as one of your arguments, seeing strong men or women in the room. So I don't know if people really say test scores don't mean anything and poor kids can't learn. I just don't really ever hear that. I think it's a much more nuanced conversation to have about SEL and the importance of teaching and providing support to kids who have extra challenges, trauma, etc. Finally, I have been following the facilities management issues, which have great budgetary implementation. I've been to a retreat as an unpaid volunteer, as somebody who sits in the back of the room and tries to learn as I go. But you made some reference a minute ago, do we really want a new school or not? I'm wondering, when is the facility management plan going to really be a plan, or what is it? Is it a moving target? Are people devoting days of time to go to these retreats, like board members and volunteers? And then does it keep changing? What's going on with the East Side thing, the West Broad thing, the new school? When does that become actually something we're going to do and know that that's what we're doing? And when does it continue to stay kind of a rough draft that keeps changing? And those are my questions and comments.
Thank you. Let me start with the last statement. So we did release a future facilities use report in November. And there was feedback that was provided to us after we released it. There's a lot of moving components to that report. One of the many issues is there's continued interest from certain community groups to have access to the West Broad facility. But in our initial recommendation, we said we needed space for early childhood education, which from a research standpoint says that combats and addresses poverty issues that kids bring to schools. There was also a recommendation of us continuing to explore the possibility of building a 15th elementary school on the site that we call School C. So what I would share with you is that that report was extensive. And it's an issue, those are multiple issues that were here before I arrived. They've been unaddressed issues for a long time. I don't think there's a quick answer. I want to be a deliberate listener to a lot of different suggestions that people have provided in the community. Some of the, I wouldn't call it pushback, but the suggestions have been, do you really want to create a 15th elementary school and redraw boundary lines? That was some of the feedback that came out after November. Obviously, some of the feedback has been community groups do want access to West Broad. So is there a way that we can find a level of cooperation? I think that's fair to have that discussion. I think that's worthy. One area where we have been deliberate and definitive is what we want to do with Old Gaines, the Old Gaines site. With the building of Hillsbend, we think we have gone through the cycle of needing to have a replacement school. We don't think we're going to need to be in a position where you have to place a school at Old Gaines for a year or two anymore. And so to avoid what we dealt with Barber Street School and with West Broad, it's my vision that we take that parcel of land and we place a Boys and Girls Club there, that we work with junior achievement and put a biz town on that campus. We're open to working with that Fiscal County library system and having a library there. Our initial presentation in November said we wanted to place the Office of Early Learning for the East Side on that campus. I am willing to defer and make sure that the library is there before we put Office of Early Learning there. We have a plot of land, about 5 acres of land, that's right next to Whit Davis. And if there's an opportunity for us to place an Office of Early Learning on the campus of Whit Davis in order to allow us to have a library on that whole gang site, I would prefer to do that instead of the initial presentation. So I guess I would say from a facility standpoint, people have interest in all these different things, and we don't want to be closed-minded. We're listening to what people are sharing with us, and eventually we'll come to, I believe, a good solution. The other thing that I didn't mention is a district office. My understanding is that prior to me arriving here, that the district office being at the H.T. Edwards building was supposed to be temporary. And so I like to tell our district office we're on borrowed time. We should be looking for a permanent place. And so that's there's a lot of complexity there. Okay, so I hope that answers that piece.
I think when it's gonna be a plan as opposed to a rough draft to change, is that another year, 6 months?
No, I would prefer, I think all of it is kind of moving together. Part of that whole game's vision is working in collaboration with the unified government and having that placed on the fall 2019 ballot. So I think a lot of this, in my mind, will be solidified in the next 3 to 6 months. In regards to principals, yes, there's been a lot of turnover. There was a lot of turnover last year. I anticipate more turnover this year because I have an expectation that building leaders are the ones who are implementing the change. And then when I say change, I mean instructional change. And some of our principals are looking at their capacity and their interest in the work, and they're either saying, I'm not interested, or I have other interests in other places. So I think that's a healthy thing for building principals to make those decisions. But I've also mentioned them so often this evening, and so I appreciate you pointing that out, is because in the past, they were not at the table for these budget conversations. I've had many of our veterans in the organization say, we were never up to ask our opinions about what should happen with the budget for as a principal team. And so from a collaborative standpoint, that's the reason why I've been mentioning them so much. I value that school level perspective. And I would agree with you. I appreciate the pushback. I think it isn't as, I hope I'm not making it so straightforward where I am implying that people are just simply saying kids who are poor and live in trauma can't learn. But what I have heard, it is nuanced. It is nuanced on both sides. I think what I have heard is that here's the challenge of why we can't get the results. So I hear you. I appreciate your statement. I hope you can appreciate. I hear you. I appreciate your perspective. I hope you can hear mine, which is it's really difficult in my role to hear staff members make statements around, well, here's the challenge. And so what I've been sharing with anyone who wants to listen is to say, yes, those are challenges that when you decided to work in a school system like ours, with the demographics that we have, those are challenges that you have to embrace and view as opportunities, not challenges. And it's a fine line between stating it as facts and making it an excuse. And if you continue to use that as a talking point, it can become an excuse very quickly. So I hope you can appreciate that in my role. I don't want our staff to view that as an excuse for why our kids can't do the work. I do understand that it's a challenge. I do understand we need to create the conditions to do this work differently and more effectively. So I don't think it's an either or. I hear people who are saying, well, you are saying that we believe that poor kids and kids in trauma can't learn. But I hope you can understand my perspective of, but if we have a staff that consistently made that their go-to statement around the challenges of achievement in our school system, that can also be an obstacle. Yes, ma'am.
So you're saying the new library is supposed to go on the school main school site?
No, ma'am. No, I want to be very clear. I want to be very clear. Our proposal to the unified government was that at the Old Gate site, there would be a Boys and Girls Club. There would be a junior achievement building and an office of early learning for the east side. But the feedback that we have received from individuals who are interested in seeing that development has said that it would be amazing if on that site there could be a library, because the county government has talked about putting an east side library. Correct. And so I think there are some people who are saying, well, why put it there if you're creating a youth development center where there's already a Boys and Girls Club going to be on that side, and this town is going to be on that side. The conversation's really been, can we put 4 different buildings on that one parcel of land? I don't think we can. I don't think there's enough parking space for it. And so what I'm suggesting is that we are gladly willing to find another space for our Office of Early Learning if we can assist the unified government in having a library there. I would rather have a facility where there's a Boys and Girls Club, a junior achievement facility, and a library.
The SPLOST committee has been meeting weekly for months. I think they're pretty set on the southeast Park side because of the parking, accessibility, the easy access to the bus line. And, it may not be just a library, maybe a library is certain libraries where there's a playground attached, or a place where people can picnic. I mean, it's not going to be like the library on Baxter Street,
Yes.
but they do want the space. It's interesting, but it's going to serve a lot of different parts of the population. And I don't know, this is new to me, this Gates movement.
And please know, this is Demond Means' opinion. This is my opinion of what I would like to, if we can help facilitate it, that's what I would love to do for kids. To have all those facilities and all those resources on one campus. That's just one person's opinion. There's no plan in action or anything in motion to make it happen. It's just a vision. Any other questions? So this is a time where I want you to give me some feedback. So we've talked a lot about SEL staffing. From your perspective, when we talk about the fact that we only have about $500,000 to invest in new items, where would you invest the funds? And this is a straw poll where you get to raise your hand right now. If you believe that the best investment for us right now is to try to boost, and I think there's been a lot of talk this evening about SEL, do you believe that investing more and getting more social workers and counselors in our schools would be the best investment of that $500,000? I'll ask you to raise your hand in a second. If you believe that the investment of taking that $500,000 and trying to, and you can't spread it out. it's difficult to spread it across all of our classified staff. But if you believe in the concept of investing in our classified staff and using that money would be the best placement, raise your hand. So it's either SEL, yes ma'am.
When you say SEL,
What does it mean?
yeah,
I think it ultimately, the way that we have framed it has been Dr. Myers and her team has to decide, working with our schools, what that looks like. So let me give you a couple of examples. We've been told that we don't have enough school psychologists. And by not having enough school psychologists, the backlog of students who have been identified for special education continues to grow. And so you may have a child who is slated to be special ed, but they're not being served because the school psychologists are so overwhelmed. And so Dawn Myers may say, what about a school psychologist? She may say we need more school counselors. It may be we need more social workers. I don't want to be in a position of saying what will come out of the $500,000. In essence, I want to provide that flexibility and creativity for her and her team to say, here's how we can best serve the schools. Okay? All right. Good question. How many of you would say invest in SEL? Just show of hands. It could be social workers, counselors. Thank you. Maybe you would say invested in our classified staff. And I would say welcome to budgeting, because there's never an easy decision that can be made. But that's where we stand right now with the development of our budget, where we're finally trying to decide where that investment should be made. To be candid with you as we wrap up, where I'm leaning right now, and that's where you lean as well, is investing in more SEL. It's not the 1.5 million that I would like, because I had a dream of finding the $1.5 million and being able to answer the issue of ample support in the SEL area. We're not able to invest that level of funds, but at least $500,000 is more than what we have right now. And so to your point, sir, maybe if we had an extra social worker somewhere, that could have been someone who was called to help me today, to help de-escalate things. Right now, everyone in our organization is working hard, but in particular, our SEL team is stretched. And so the more people we can get on that team. Thank you for the questions. You had really good questions. Thank you for giving the feedback at the end here. That's valuable. I will stay around if you have additional questions, but I hope that this new model of at least touching base with the public before we roll out our plan to the Board of Education is something that is valued and appreciated. I appreciate the time with you this evening. Thanks a lot.